And the director of the FBI says this is the largest takedown he's ever seen, and everyone should be paying attention.
We have permanently removed a drug trafficking organization out of the streets of Philadelphia, and they're going to stop pouring guns and chemicals and drugs into our communities, and our children are safer today.
4:19 a.m. Minnesota, a campus in darkness, a drug network beneath it. Heroin, fentanyl, and cash before dawn. Movement tracked through Ilhan Omar's district. What appeared to be a campus was actually a gateway into a network built on drugs, money, and fear. Let me show you. At 4:19 a.m., the city was asleep, but the threat was not. Federal investigators had tracked a drug network moving through the area connected to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's district. Cash exchanges, late-night movements, and encrypted messages linked to heroin and fentanyl. The viral threat was no longer just noise. It was proof the network was already operating. If you believe investigations like this should never be ignored, hit like so more people can see the truth. Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar recently stated that one of her relatives was confronted by ICE agents in Minnesota. However, this incident appears to be part of a larger sequence of events that began after a viral social media post made by a Somali student who issued a violent threat against ICE agents. A Somali student named Hassan Mohammed didn't just make an outburst. He filmed himself declaring that if ICE agents came into his neighborhood, he would track them down and shoot them. His voice was calm, deliberate, and disturbing, the kind of threat that sounded rehearsed rather than impulsive. I actually heard you guys pull up to Otana, the big oh hey, you pulled up when I was not there. Oh, so pussy boy. You're going to get shot next time I see your ass. Bring the whole cavalry. Within hours, the video spread across TikTok and X, amplified through private channels until it reached federal monitoring units. At a time when threats against immigration officers had increased by over 8,000%, including messages targeting agents' homes and families, nothing was dismissed as online anger. Every word was reviewed as potential action. His later apology meant nothing. The threat had already crossed a line, and it triggered the first phase of a much larger federal response. If you think threats like this should always be taken seriously, comment "alert" to let the algorithm push this story further. Once the federal command approved the operation, the response moved with precision. ICE, DEA, and local police formed a single tactical unit. Just over 30 agents assigned to locations already connected to past investigations and outstanding warrants. Hassan Mohammed's threat didn't create the risk. It simply accelerated an operation already on standby. Before sunrise, a line of black SUVs moved quietly into the university district. 6 entry teams advanced in silence. Doors were knocked once, then forced open. Flashlights swept across narrow hallways as rooms were cleared in seconds. From behind windows, students watched agents enter dorms and rental units that had been monitored for months. Inside one apartment, agents recovered 9 phones and fake IDs. Another concealed $74,000 behind a ventilation panel. A third revealed something darker, a coded contact list linked to federal drug suspects. By sunrise, 14 individuals were detained, and the network hidden beneath the campus was no longer in the shadows. When investigators began examining the seized devices, a different truth emerged, one far more serious than immigration violations. The data revealed a systematic drug network operating quietly behind the campus. Messages, voice notes, and transaction logs pointed to repeated deliveries of heroin, fentanyl, and synthetic chemicals, all coded under innocent labels like books, supplies, or midnight drops. One folder contained a spreadsheet with 58 recorded shipments, each marked with weight symbols investigators recognized as drug quantities. Another phone held photos of vacuum-sealed packages, the kind commonly used to store drugs before long-distance transport. Several notes mentioned the quarry, a location that appeared on 3 devices, always connected to late-night activity. GPS data confirmed it. Multiple suspects had traveled repeatedly to an abandoned industrial zone known unofficially as the Quarry Base, a place long rumored to be used by smugglers. Every thread led back to one name, Abdul Rahman Khalif Nur, 42. Nur had prior connections to interstate drug routes, and financial records on a laptop showed deposits totaling over $410,000 within 6 months, far beyond legitimate income. His messages coordinated pickup times, quantities, and runners responsible for moving drugs in small batches to avoid detection. Files also revealed a rotating chain of safe houses, burner phones, and detailed maps of distribution paths across Minnesota and 2 neighboring states. The suspects on campus weren't simply hiding. They were part of a structured drug operation using the university as protective cover. By the time agents finished reviewing the evidence, one fact was undeniable. This was a drug network with leadership, logistics, and reach, and it was still fully active. If you're still watching at this point, type "expose" in the comments so this investigation reaches more people. The path to the quarry base had been forming for days. Every phone seized, every GPS log, every coded message pointed to the same place. A forgotten industrial zone outside Minneapolis, surrounded by broken concrete, rusted fences, and an unnatural silence. To most people, it was just an abandoned warehouse. To investigators, it was the heart of the network. Just after 4 a.m., the operation began. A convoy of unmarked SUVs moved slowly down the narrow road leading into the complex. The headlights were dimmed. The radios were silent except for coded whispers. 42 federal agents, ICE, DEA, and tactical units took positions around the perimeter. Their faces were calm, but their grips were tight. Intelligence suggested that weapons were stored inside and that some members of the network had cartel-level connections. No one knew how the night would end. At 4:27 a.m., a small drone lifted into the air, scanning the warehouse roof and side entrances. Heat signatures appeared, at least 7 people inside. One figure stood in the central room, barely moving. The shape matched the height and build of Abdul Rahman Khalif Nur. "Entry teams ready," a voice muttered through the radio. The breach began with a single controlled explosion. The metal side door shook, then fell outward with a burst of dust. Flashlights sliced through the darkness. Team 1 swept through the left wing, stacked crates, torn tarps, and the sour chemical smell of drug processing. Team 2 pushed toward the central hall, moving steadily under the cover of heavy shields. Then came the first confrontation. 2 suspects burst out from behind a stack of pallets, attempting to flee through a side exit. Agents shouted commands, "Stop, federal agents!" But the men didn't comply. One reached into his jacket. In seconds, agents fired 2 beanbag rounds, knocking both suspects to the floor. They were handcuffed and pulled aside as the operation pushed forward. Inside the warehouse's core, something more alarming appeared. Metal containers filled with heroin, fentanyl precursors, and equipment capable of preparing hundreds of doses per hour. This wasn't storage. This was production. The final room was sealed with a reinforced lock. It took nearly a minute to break through. When the door swung open, agents found Khalif Nur sitting at a metal table, a phone in his hand. 3 more lined up beside him. No chaos, no resistance. He simply lifted his head as if he had been expecting them. Around him were $260,000 in cash rubber-banded into bricks, 15 handguns and 3 rifles in open cases, ledgers detailing shipments across 3 states, and a mapped distribution route traced with red marker. For a moment, the room stood still. The storm was over. Nur was handcuffed without a word. His network had collapsed in a single night. What began with a viral threat had now exposed a drug base operating in the shadows of Minnesota. And the man who quietly ran it was finally in federal custody. If you support federal agents risking their lives to dismantle networks like this, hit like and share this chapter forward. When the lights inside the quarry base were finally switched on, agents realized the raid had only ended the first half of the story. The second half, hidden in laptops, burner phones, and boxes of records, was even more disturbing. What investigators discovered over the next 72 hours transformed the case from a local drug operation into a multi-state criminal enterprise with international ties. Every device collected from the warehouse was rushed to a temporary command center. There, forensic analysts worked around the clock. The first major discovery came from a cracked Samsung phone recovered near the loading dock. Inside was a long thread of encrypted messages between Khalif Nur and a contact saved only as the broker. The texts detailed shipments of heroin and fentanyl precursors, recorded in coded weights of stones, pages, and bars. When decoded, those terms represented multi-kilo quantities, enough to endanger thousands of people. Another breakthrough emerged from a laptop hidden under a false panel in Nur's office. The hard drive contained financial ledgers spanning 4 years, documenting more than $3.8 million in cash movement through informal channels, mostly wire transfers sent in small amounts to avoid detection. The funds moved through accounts in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois, and then disappeared into offshore digital wallets. These weren't the actions of amateurs. This was the behavior of a structured network designed to survive long-term. Then came the most chilling document, a digital map showing 36 distribution points across 3 states. Each point was marked with dates, initials, and quantities of drugs. Some of the initials matched individuals arrested on campus. Others matched suspects who had fled weeks earlier. The map proved what agents feared. The quarry base wasn't a standalone site. It was the central hub of a quiet but extensive supply chain feeding street dealers, mid-level distributors, and even college-aged couriers. Handwritten notebooks found in the warehouse added another layer. One ledger listed over 120 runners. Individuals paid small amounts to move drugs, money, or messages. Some names had asterisks next to them. Analysts later confirmed those were runners with direct access to additional safe houses. Even more alarming was a folder labeled Transit, which held printed manifests from shipping companies. They showed packages routed through Chicago and Indianapolis disguised as medical supplies. Several packages had already been intercepted in other states, but at the time the seizures had seemed unrelated. Now investigators understood that all were part of the same network. A final device, a small tablet found in Nur's locked desk, revealed a list of planned shipments. One scheduled for the following week involved chemicals sourced from overseas suppliers known to DEA intelligence. The shipment was large enough to trigger an immediate federal alert. By the end of the review, agents agreed on one conclusion. The network was far bigger than anyone imagined. It had survived by operating in silence, hiding behind everyday environments, campuses, rental homes, abandoned warehouses, while moving drugs across state lines with precision. And although the raid had captured its central figure, the files proved the investigation was far from over. The operation had been cracked open, but the network's full reach was still unfolding hour by hour. While investigators were unraveling the scale of the drug network, another battle was unfolding far from the quarry base. This one in the public arena where politics and law enforcement collided head-on. The arrest of Khalif Nur and the sweep across the Minnesota campus had already drawn attention, but everything intensified when Congresswoman Ilhan Omar stepped forward with a claim that immediately shifted the national conversation. In an interview, Omar alleged that her son had been stopped by ICE agents, questioned, and asked to show identification. She stated he felt targeted and that ICE had been stalking him in multiple locations for weeks. She described agents entering a mosque while he was praying, appearing at a restaurant, and approaching him in a parking lot. Her tone was calm, but the accusations were serious: racial profiling, intimidation, and misconduct. But within hours of her statement, ICE fired back. Acting ICE Director Todd Leon delivered a firm and unusually blunt rebuttal. He stated that ICE had absolutely zero record of any stop, detention, or interaction involving Omar's son. No report, no notes, no internal logs. He accused Omar of fabricating the incident to inflame tensions at a moment when agents were facing unprecedented threats. It was rare for a federal agency to directly contradict a member of Congress, but the agency insisted that the truth required clarity. The political divide widened quickly. Supporters of Omar argued the enforcement operation was heavy-handed and placed innocent people at risk. They claimed students were traumatized, families frightened, and communities being unfairly targeted. They emphasized that the majority of Somali immigrants in Minnesota are legal residents or natural-born citizens. But opponents pointed to the facts uncovered during the investigation. A drug base operating in Minnesota, 36 distribution points across multiple states, over 120 runners documented in ledgers, connections to overseas suppliers, and campus housing used as a shield. To them, ICE wasn't acting recklessly. They were responding to a threat with national security implications. The clash escalated further when media outlets picked up on the contradiction between Omar's claims and ICE's denial. Some questioned Omar's timing. Why speak out now at the exact moment when agents had begun dismantling a drug operation, partially connected to individuals moving through her district? Others pointed to previous controversies involving individuals photographed with Omar, arguing there was a larger pattern of political defensiveness whenever immigration enforcement tightened. Behind closed doors, investigators continued their work. They knew that every public accusation, every press statement, every political argument risked overshadowing the facts contained in the seized devices. Those files showed real criminal activity, shipments, weapons, cash, and communication routes, not manufactured narratives. Yet the political noise had consequences. Community groups began organizing protests, university leaders demanded explanations, and federal agents found themselves navigating not only a criminal network, but also a growing wave of public misunderstanding. For investigators, the priority remained unchanged. Follow the evidence, secure the community, and stay focused on the network itself. But the political clash surrounding the operation had become impossible to ignore. It was now part of the story, one that threatened to shape public perception more powerfully than the facts themselves. In the days following Khalif Nur's arrest, federal agents expected the operation to slow down. Instead, it accelerated. Every new device unlocked, every ledger translated, and every financial trail followed opened yet another door. What became clear was this: the quarry base was not the beginning of the network. It was only the center point of a web that had been expanding quietly for years. Working from a temporary command hub in Minneapolis, analysts began cross-referencing the seized data with existing federal databases. The results were staggering. Names appearing in Nur's ledgers matched individuals in ongoing DEA investigations in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan. Several phone numbers traced back to safe houses already under surveillance in 2 different states. The network didn't simply operate across borders. It thrived in the gaps between jurisdictions. Agents discovered financial links connecting Nur to 4 shell businesses, all registered under different identities but sharing the same digital fingerprints. These companies moved small sums, $3,000 here, $7,500 there, just enough to pass unnoticed. Over 4 years, the combined flow reached over $3.8 million, confirming that the drug trade around the quarry base was not a side operation, but a full-scale business model. The deeper the investigation went, the more disturbing the structure became. A tablet recovered from Nur's office listed 12 secondary coordinators responsible for distributing drugs to mid-level dealers. 3 of those coordinators had already vanished after the raid. Their phones shut off within minutes of Nur's arrest. Another name on the list belonged to a man who had traveled in and out of the country 17 times in 2 years, raising new questions about international sourcing. Agents also realized how deeply the network had infiltrated everyday settings. At least 9 runners held jobs inside community centers, grocery stores, or campus facilities, blending into places where no one would suspect criminal activity. Records showed drugs being handed off in parking lots, laundromats, and even outside small local churches. The simplicity of the methods made them difficult to detect, and for investigators, that was the most unsettling discovery of all. But the biggest revelation came from a series of voice messages stored on Nur's tablet. In them, a voice believed to be the broker outlined plans to expand distribution routes into 2 new states. It wasn't just a continuation. It was an expansion strategy, as if the network expected to operate for years without interruption. The messages ended with a chilling statement: "Keep the campus clean. They won't look there." For investigators, the meaning was unmistakable. The university was never a hiding place by accident. It was deliberately used as cover, a safe corridor where couriers could move freely under the shield of academic life and political sensitivity. By the 7th day of analysis, task force leaders agreed on one sobering truth: the network, although damaged, was not dead. Pieces of it were still moving, quietly, carefully, waiting to see how far the investigation would push next. And as agents prepared the next round of warrants, one question hung in the air, heavier than any evidence recovered so far. If a network this large could hide in plain sight inside a community trusted to be safe, how many more are out there? In the end, this story was never only about a warehouse, a campus, or a single arrest. It was about something larger, the way a network can exist in silence, woven into familiar streets, ordinary buildings, and the places people walk past every day without a second thought. It reminds us that danger does not always appear loudly. Sometimes it moves quietly through late-night messages, unmarked routes, and people who blend into the background until evidence forces the truth into view. The investigation around the quarry base revealed more than drugs, cash ledgers, and devices. It showed how organized crime adapts, how it learns from institutions, studies human trust, and operates inside the blind spots no one thinks to question. And it reinforced why operations like this matter, not to target communities, but to protect the innocent people living within them. The families, students, and workers who never saw what was happening beneath the surface. There is a lesson here about vigilance, about awareness, accountability, and the responsibility to ask harder questions, even in places that appear safe or respected. Behind every locked device, every financial trail, every quiet apartment under surveillance, there are stories we rarely witness. Stories that shape neighborhoods, cities, and lives in ways we seldom realize until it is too late. If you're still here at this point in the story, it means you care about investigations like this, about truth, security, and the unseen work carried out by those who track what others try to hide. I want to hear your thoughts. Which part of this case stayed with you the most? Do you believe operations like this should continue even when they create controversy? Tell me in the comments below. Your voice matters, and your engagement helps this story reach others who need to understand what lies beneath the surface. If you support deeper investigations, hit like, share this video, and let more people see the truth behind the silence. And if you want me to keep following cases like this, type "continue" in the comments, because one operation may have ended here, but the investigation is far from over.